Hey guys, it's Isabel. I'm at the Louisiana Book Festival with author of The Serpent King, Zenter. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the book?
Sure. The Serpent King is a coming-of-age story that takes place in rural Tennessee. It was pitched as The Perks of Being a Wallflower meets The Outsiders, and it's about three misfits trying to survive their senior year and make their way without letting their spirits be crushed by the oppressiveness of their small town and the gossip that they have to deal with and getting picked on and things like that.
It's fantastic, and I'll leave a link to the video I did about the book where I'm basically crying the whole time, talking about how great it was. So you guys should definitely pick it up and check it out. I'll leave links to it also down below for you to go and buy the book. So we're going to go into the questions now. The first one is, it's kind of long. In the author's note of The Serpent King, it says that the teens you have worked with teaching music in the past had inspired you to write a novel for young adults. You also describe the book as being your love letter to teens and others who struggle with similar issues your characters face. Not only is this book heavy in a sense, but it's dark and brutally honest. With all of the elements it dives into, and with that goal in mind, were you at all concerned with how people or even teens were going to react or respond to the story?
I mean, yeah, definitely I was. I got into writing young adult literature because specifically I wanted to write for teenagers. And it sounds kind of funny to say, of course you wanted to write for teenagers, but I really, really wanted to reach teenagers. And so I really thought about how I could most be honest, how I could really, treat these subjects with care and candor and just not gloss things over, because the thing I found in working for teenagers is that teenagers really value honesty and they value candor, and you can't deliver them up artifice, like they'll see right past it, so you just have to be totally honest.
Yeah, that was one of the things I loved about it, was that there was no sugarcoating of how it is or how these teens might feel, because sometimes people try and downplay that, for teenagers, how they're feeling or, things they're going through, but it was honest, and I think, I got that from it, and I think a lot of other readers do as well, or they did.
Well, thank you. That was important to me.
The Serpent King takes place in a town that is very religious and alludes to having racist and even slight homophobia. When you were diving into Dill's world, which is a real place that is set in Tennessee, with real people and real history, how careful or aware were you about how you described Tennessee in this town?
I wanted to walk a really fine balance in that I love Tennessee and I love rural Tennessee, and I wanted to show that there were good things about the place where they lived and there were bad things, and sometimes it was the same thing that was both good and bad. Like Dill is really drawn to sort of the decay and the rusting and broken things around him. He finds beauty in that. Yeah. But at the same time, those things are emblematic of this environment that he lives in, where he lives with all these broken things and these things that are in decline, and he feels like he wants to get away from that. It was really important for me to draw Tennessee in a way that wouldn't be stereotypical. It wouldn't be making fun of the people who live in rural Tennessee, because again, I have nothing but respect and love for people who live in rural places. I mean, that's where I come from. So it was a constant challenge. It was a constant fine line to walk, because it's really easy to slip into stereotype and to play things broadly and for laughs and for that kind of thing.
If there was an overall lesson or idea that you wanted people to take away or understand when they read the book, what would it be?
It would really be, I think, that who you are born as, the circumstances you're born into are not who you are.
Yeah.
They can shape who you are and they can influence who you are, but they are not who you are. Like, you can be who you want to be. You can be your own person, and you don't have to accept the life that somebody else wants for you.
Yeah.
You can have your own life. You can draw your own path. You can pave your own road. And it may be hard. It may be painful. In fact, it will be hard. It will be painful. But you can do it. You can find your own way. I think that's the main kind of, if there's a lesson to the book. I didn't really write the book with a lesson in mind or to teach anything, but that that doesn't mean that there can't be lessons from it. And
Yeah.
if there's a lesson, then I hope that's it.
Yeah. Did you expect the book to do as well as it's done and to take off the way it has, or even to get the response it's gotten oh my god, even to get the response it's gotten out of not only critics but readers?
Not at all. I mean, first of all, I was shocked that editors even wanted it. But then as I found out, because as we were shopping it around to editors, there were several that were really interested in it. And as we were talking with these editors, we discovered that like their backgrounds are kind of similar to the backgrounds of the kids in this book.
Yeah.
Like they came from small towns, books were their salvation, and they ended up getting out of these small towns and going to the big city. See, I had in my head that all these editors and people in publishing were all just born and raised in New York City and like went and worked down the street in these publishing houses. But that's not it at all. So they really identified with the book. And I was really, really surprised by how many people have identified with it. It's been a really pleasant surprise for me because I thought it would be a really tiny group of people, to be honest, who identified with it.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting to hear, like, that so many people had that story, you know, living there and stuff.
Yeah.
That's neat. One thing I noticed that I've discussed with others is Dill, Travis, and Lydia all have these incredibly distinct and varying home lives. Dill, both parents are pretty much absent or distant. Travis has his mother, but not a great dad. And Lydia has both supportive and present parents. You do this in such a subtle yet visible way that is so brilliant and true. All families are different, and you cover a lot of ground with the types of families you condemn here. It's such genius artistry and imagery to the likes of which I really haven't seen in a young adult book in a while, and it surpasses, in my opinion, and I've told this to people, even the work of some of the great American writers that I've read. When you wrote the book, was this element intentional? Did it come naturally? And what about it was so important to you and to the book or even to the character?
First of all, thank you very much. That is a really nice compliment. It was important to me to show different kinds of families. I wanted to show different kinds of challenges because I think that's one of the most relatable things to young adult readers is family life, because you're not in a position where you're independent from your family, and your family has such an influence on the choices you can make and what you're able to do and your social position and all of that. So I wanted to show the different shades of family life, and there are still so many. You know, I only showed a really small fraction, but within that small fraction I showed it was important to me to show the different shades of family life and engagement and involvement and the sort of challenges that families can put in kids' paths without even realizing it sometimes. I wanted to show the different kinds of abuse that kids can suffer, and I wanted to show them finding ways to cope with that and to even overcome it. So yeah, it was a really conscious decision on my part. And also, I wanted to say things in the book about economic inequality and class differences, because I think those are important issues facing teenagers, facing our nation. And one way to do that is to show the difference between socioeconomic status between the families. So yeah, that was a really important thing for me to keep in mind. And I wanted adults to be present in the book too. I know a lot of young adult books, the adults are just,
Adults aren't there.
they're totally absent from the book, which I don't think is true to most young adults' experience. I think adults are a really present and important part of their lives.
Definitely. I noticed that in so many books, and readers talk about it, is as much as they understand the characters in some ways, when there's that distinct, difference of not having family there, that's a level of being able to relate to a character that's missed or that's gone from the book. And so that was really interesting to me also reading it, was that not only could I relate to Lydia on a personal level, but there was finally a book where I could relate to her on her family level and the world she lived in, and just what that life was like, because there hasn't really been other books that I've read that have had that element, So that was really interesting.
Thank you.
Your new book, Goodbye Days, comes out in March 2017. Could you briefly describe what this book is about and what you are most excited about for fans of yours and even your readers?
Sure. So Goodbye Days is the story of a young man who's struggling with grief and guilt in the wake of the death of his three best friends, who he lost in a car accident that he may have contributed to causing by texting them while they were driving. So the book opens up and his three best friends are deceased. and the grandmother of one of his friends invites him to join her on a goodbye day. It's a day where they spend one last day together as though they'd gotten to spend one last day with their deceased loved one. And it's about the revelations they have on that day. It's about the things they think about. And then the other two families want to have goodbye days too, but they're very different experiences. Each one is very different and fills very different needs for the family and for my main character. And while all this is going on, my character is struggling with having panic attacks. He starts seeing a therapist, and so therapy is a big part of the book. And he's also developing a close relationship with the girlfriend of one of his deceased friends. And that's, they're sharing this kind of emotional intimacy that's kind of growing into something else, and it's creating problems for him there as well. So in terms of things I'm excited about, there is a cameo in Goodbye Days from one of the Serpent King crew that ties up some loose ends in Serpent King. So I'm excited about that because I like it when books share a universe, and you see that it's all happening in the same kind of fictional universe. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited that it's written in first person present tense as opposed to the Serpent King, which was third person past tense. So it's just a very different voice, and I'm just excited for you to meet these characters that have been bouncing around in my head.
I'm so excited. I've heard so many good things about it already.
Well, good.
So going off of that, you know, it seems like the books you're writing are they not only tackle a lot of different issues or talk about things, but they're somewhat, you know, emotional and honest, and they just dive into, you know, very harsh but real topics. Is that something you think you'll always be doing in your writing, or is there other things you kind of want to branch into?
I'm always going to deal with hard stuff, with sad stuff, because that's just what I like to read. I like to read about kids dealing with hard things. But for example, my third book that I'm working on now, I intend for it to be a comedy. Like, I really do want it to be a very funny book. Like, when people talk about it, I want the first thing that comes out of their mouth to be, this is a really funny book. So I can definitely, I love funny, I love sad. I think funniness, comedy, and tragedy are very closely related. So it's a really thin line, and I'm really excited to write that. So I'm always going to deal with heavy stuff. I'm always going to deal with sad stuff. There's always going to be some sadness. But I'm not trying to drown anyone in sadness. I definitely want there to be hope. I want there to be humor, and that's what I'm going to try to write.
Awesome. I'm excited about the second one and the third
Well,
one.
thank you.
That'll be awesome. So thank you so much for doing this interview and for talking with me.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I hope you enjoyed getting to hear about the book, and hopefully we'll go out and read it. It's amazing, like I said before, and you should definitely check it out. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.